So level 2, here I am in unit 23, thinking about future homework, and these are the 5 kinds of 7th chords. This is probably review, but just so you can see it on the keyboard as well, I'll just go through all 5 types. So 7th chords, just a chord, basic root, 3rd, 5th, and an added 7, right? And there's just 5 ways you can play that. So if it's a major 7th chord, it functions in that key. So for example, a C7, it looks like just a 1 chord basically in the key of C. And in your book, they label it MAJ, you'll notice. So if it's a major 7th chord, it's a major chord and a major 7th on the outside. The next one that they talk about is the dominant 7th, and the only difference between that and the major is that top note. So a dominant 7th, we move the top note down to create a minor 7th. We still have the major chord though. So dominant 7ths are acting like 5 chords, that's why they're called dominants. So for instance, this chord doesn't work in the key of C, it's the 5 of F, right? And that's where it wants to go, so that tension wants to end here. Anyway, that's the dominant 7th. The next one that they talk about, the dominant 7th, they will just label it with the letter and a 7. That's it. Now the next one is the minor 7th chord. So now we've done the dominant, so the next step would be the minor 7th chord. Now you're only moving that middle note. So you have a C minor chord on the bottom part. And we still have the minor 7th on the outside though. That has not changed. And they label that one in your book CM7. And then the next step would be a half diminished 7th chord. So now we're lowering the G also in this case. So we've got C, E flat, G flat, B flat. Still a minor 7th on the outside, but now we've got a diminished triad on the bottom. And they'll label that sometimes C minor 7 flat 5. I'm used to seeing C with a little circle and a slash through it. Sometimes they label it like that in music theory. And then your your fully diminished 7th chord is all minor thirds. So here, in this case, if we were writing it out in staff paper, it would be C, E flat, G flat, some kind of B. So it would have to be B double flat, which is, I know, that's weird. And the book actually has a typo. Do you see it? Here it's right on this part that has the double flat. But my book anyway, maybe yours is fine, but mine has a typo. It should be 2 flats there because that B's got to be lowered again to make a diminished 7th. So let me just do a couple more so it sort of makes sense before you get into the homework. You can at least visualize it if you don't have a keyboard. If you do have a keyboard, that's awesome, and you can try them on your own. A D major 7, for example. So think of it in the key of D. Remember, we have 2 sharps. So there's a D major 7, D, F sharp, A, C sharp. Let's say we want an E half diminished. Then we want diminished triad, but a minor 7th. And E fully diminished. So the fully diminished chords, I forgot to say, they sometimes just write D-I-M or plain circle. So those are 5 types. And when we get into the book, if you do, well, first of all, here's your inversions of them on page 288. And those are important to know. Do you see that G7 in root position is just G7, and then like we do our other inverted chords, whatever's to the right of that slash, that's the lowest note. So in the case of 7th chords, you have 3 inversions you can do. And if you have a keyboard at home and would like to, what we would do in class at this point is some sight reading here on the next page. There's Full Moon Rising, which I think we may have looked at for the final briefly before we got sidetracked here. And here's the thing I want to do for a homework assignment is on 292. And there are two little pieces there, real basic. And I know some of you don't have keyboards, so all you have to do is write out what those chords are. So for example, if you want to write it on staff paper, that's fine. Or you can just write them out literally. Like F major 7 is an F, A, C, E. So if you were going to play that, that would be in the left hand, and while you're playing the melody in the right hand, obviously. Sometimes these seventh chords don't fit in the key signature, so just make sure you're paying attention to what the labels are. Remember, if it's just a letter with a 7, it's a dominant 7th, so you may have to change some notes that aren't in this key signature. And that works for the bottom one too there. So top one's in, kind of looks like C major, right? And the bottom one looks like it's in B flat major. So if you want to play it for me, you can just play the chords for me. You could try doing right hand with the chords, which is what we would do in class. Or you can just write out the chords for me and send me a picture of it, whatever's easier for you. So that's it for now.